as your love language, and whether or not your family member or your spouse or loved one has been able to um, been able to say give some insight in terms of how they um, express their style of communication, and or you as a listener has communicated to that individual that this is what makes me um, um, improve my language. Okay, this is the language that I like to hear or to receive.
In
Okay.
other words, your love language is what is the thing that really um, that lets you know that that person really cares about you,
Mm-hmm.
is listening to you, is concerned about you, and even though we're talking about spouses, we're talking about husband and wife, but we also have been made it really clear that what we're talking about can apply to any relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you may have a sister, you may have a parent who their particular love language, what communicates love to them, could be acts of service, things that you do for them that communicates to them that they love them. But then there may be another family member, or you may be a person where it could be something totally different. It could be spending quality time, spending time. For somebody else, it may be touch. And sometimes, we can get frustrated in these relationships because we can say, well, I do this for them, and I do this, and I take time and do that, and I made sure that I did this for them for their birthday, or this for Mother's Day, or, I did this for him. I had this dinner ready for him when he got home, and he just act like he didn't appreciate it. Well, it might not. Now, that's not saying it's right to act like that they don't appreciate it, but you might not have gotten the response that you wanted because that's not really their love language. And we talked last time about how sometimes people do like to have a lot of gifts, and the expensive gifts, and the name brands, and so they can say, well, he bought me this, or she bought me that, or they got me that. But for other people, those things are nice and they appreciate them, but spending time with them, that quality time, on purpose time, not by accident, not squeezing in on the scheduled time, is what communicates love to them. The fact that you made time to spend time with them. There's a commercial. I'm not sure what fast food chain it is, but you see this young man up in the morning. He's rushing and he's getting ready like he's going out to a special appointment. I mean, he's racing, he's rushing. He's a millennial, so he probably had waited to the last minute. I'm not a millennial, so I don't know what my excuse is. But anyway, and he's racing, and he makes it into the place, and you're thinking he's going in for a big business meeting or something like that. And guess what? He had a breakfast date with his dad. And so for his dad, probably, that was the love language that communicated to him, or communicates to him, that his son really loves and cares about him, because he not only spends time with him, but he has it's etched in the calendar, because evidently they meet every morning. And as the son sat down, it's as if dad knew he was going to be running late, sliding in on a banana peel. He handed him his breakfast because he had already purchased it, had already taken care of it. So just take time to find out what the love language is. And sometimes we don't know what the love language is, even ourselves, and for ourselves. Take time and figure that out. And what I will do is if I don't get to do it while we're on the broadcast, at some point I will post the link to the website where there's even a short video clip where it can help you identify what your love language is, because it's really important. It's really important.
Another one that you left out, that not by accident, but I mean, is physical touch.
Mm-hmm.
Is another love language. People,
I get on his
lot,
nerves, boy. He be
times,
trying to sleep.
mm,
I be all up under him sometimes, but there was a time I didn't want to do that. So what happened?
I don't think you get on my nerve. Many times, I think I get on your nerves sometimes. But
We won't go into
but
detail. No.
but she likes to be touched. I know, and that's one of the things I've learned over over the
those
past
who
year.
know me, I'm a what? I'm a hugger. You know, I don't even have to know you that well. You know, even when they say at church, turn around, greet your neighbor, you know, fist bump, high five, shake their hand, all that. I say, I'm a hugger. Do you mind? You know, I am a hugger. You know, and I thrive off that physical touch.
And also quality time. She likes quality time. You know, with it. So it's not just. I don't think it's necessarily just one that you can identify, but you could have a couple of. I'm not sure what I haven't read his book lately, but I'm not sure whether Chapman agrees with that. That you have you can have more than one, but you know I think you can have more than one, especially when you know that you know that what feels good to you is spending quality time or that physical touch. You know, so as Audrey has already stated, you know, find out what your love language is, so that you brought a good point out, because many times people don't know what their love language is, and so they get frustrated because they don't understand, you know, my partner or my loved one or a family member, they are doing this, but it just not satisfying.
Just ain't getting it.
But when you identify what that love language is, you know, that gives you that spark, then it will satisfy you, and that will make that communication a lot more, a lot stronger, you know, and so what we're doing basically today is kind of going over these, wanting to get some feedback in terms of making sure that you get a thorough understanding about the importance of identifying the love languages. Of course, this is one aspect, this is one theory that we're talking about, and that we feel that's important. We're not saying that this is the only one, but it does help to bring some clarity in terms of bringing some direction in terms of how people communicate. And we've already talked about in the past how, you know, women are more perceptive. They're more, they tend to look at nonverbal cues, you know, more so than men do. Of course, they're also more emotional. Men tend to be more direct. Women tend to extend the conversation to include more specifics. You know, where men tend to be what we call straight shooters. They want to get from you know, like a straight line from A. They have A and B. They want to reach to B real quick, whereas the woman wants to go to.
I want you to see all the details. I want you to see everything I saw on the way, on the left, the right, top, bottom.
And so many times, you know, as you get older, I think as you get older in your relationship with that person, you know, you begin to see certain things that how they communicate, and which is important. But others, you know, have never found that medium, and always stay frustrated, confused, and you know. One of the aspects, one of the things that brings up about problems in the relationship, again, other than some other things we're not going to talk about, is communication. So we want to. That's why we're spending a lot of time on, you know, defining in various ways what communication is. You know.
Right, and my sorrow went and said that she just finished a conversation with her husband about effective communication last night. And that's one reason why we like it, that everybody can just jump in on Monday nights, because there's always something to learn. It doesn't matter how long we've been married, how what a short period of time we might have been married, or even the fact whether we're single, because it's all about relationships. Because think about this. Well, there's two points I wanted to make. Yes, we're talking about the 5 love languages per Gary Chapman. But this, just as anything else, should be looked at as just some sort of a guide, you know, or a reference point. Because you may identify something that's not even on the list when you really figure out what really does it for me. You know, some may say it's an act of service, but for some of you it may be more specific. When your significant other prepares a meal for you, lays the meal out. Yes, and Winter's been married 27 years. And see, that's the other thing that happens when someone's been married a long time. You can tend to, okay, well, we got this. We're not gonna get a divorce. We're gonna ride through it. But it's always ways to improve or even find out more about each other. Just because we've been together 38 years, it doesn't mean that we know everything about each other. As you continue to explore and to get to know that person even better. And so, okay, let's back off marriage and talk about, just other relationships. That sister you think you know, or that cousin you think you know, or, one of the things that I'm enjoying is getting to know cousins that I never even heard of before, and find out about them. What do they like? What are they doing? Even if it's a long distance relationship and we're only communicating via Facebook, just taking the time to get to know somebody. For some people, that's a love language. You care enough about me to listen or to ask questions or to want to know, instead of just, half-heartedly listening and then going on to the next part of the conversation. So remember, it's just a foundation that you can use, but be open. And the other piece to that is, even if you sat down and you asked that family member or that spouse, okay, so I'm learning about these love languages, and this is what they are right here. And what's your love language? Even if they read the book front to back, cover to cover. Yes, Winter, you're right. People change with age. People really do change with age. And we have to be willing to adapt. What we have to remember, if we're talking and we're trying to make sure that what do you know what tell me, what is your love language? What do you like? What communicates to you that I just really love you or care about you, or that you're special or significant?
Oh, you want to drop that on me, huh? But I think part of it is
don't you take this? Oh,
no. What one that we hadn't talked about that Chapman talks about is affirmation. That's one of the things that affirming that person is important. That let them know they look sharp. They look fantastic. And what you talked about last time, I think how men like to have that affirmation.
Right.
So you give that to them. So I think that's part of what I like. In extending that, I know what you gonna get at, but you just triggered something. Going back to, I'll let you finish what you're talking about. But I think it's important, for children to be affirmed at an early age, because then they can take that, into adulthood, knowing that they are important, knowing that they have something to contribute, to society, and
that they matter.
That they matter.
Yeah.
That they are, manly. They're feminine. And that's something that we talked about last time. So when you affirm that in somebody, and within that family context, when you go outside the family, what people say to you won't necessarily. If they say something opposite of what you've been taught at home, what you have been taught at home validates who you are. But when somebody else comes against that, then you can reject what they say.
Right.
But if you don't have that at home, then what you end up doing is going to looking for somebody else to validate who you are, and you can get to with the wrong crowd or whatever. So that's. I think that affirmation is really important.
And I think that was one thing we talked about last time too, is that it's really important to affirm one another, encourage each other, and as ladies, we really need to affirm the men in our lives. Whether we're talking about sons, nephews, or our husbands. Just because this is a grown man, the way that God has wired a man, we talk about ego as it being negative, but it's something that a woman can build up. She can build that up in her husband. And a lot of times that just reinforces the fact that she does love me, she does care about me, she is paying attention to me. she think I'm the bomb.com. And it's important that we do that. But now you got me going on a rabbit trail, because I just saw something posted on Facebook. I don't think it was the first time I had seen it, but a little girl had been affirmed every day by her mother, by how beautiful she was, how smart she was, how awesome she was, and just all of these different things just really had been. Oh, hello, Sabrina, good to see you. And so something happened to her when she went to school. This little boy was really, really ugly towards her, said a lot of negative, nasty things to her. And the mother was really concerned and asked the child, well, so how did you handle it? Because I think a teacher called to let her know what happened or something like that. I'm probably getting a lot of details wrong. But the gist of it is, when she asked the little girl, so baby, how did you handle it? What did you do when he called you dumb and stupid and stuff like that? What the little girl did was just out of her being, she said what her mother had been saying to her. She said, because I knew I wasn't ugly and I knew I was smart, so I told him that I was beautiful and I was intelligent, that I was smart, and that what he was saying wasn't true. So you build in that confidence. And see, from a spiritual standpoint, Beverly's up there writing so fast that autocorrect is taking over. She says her love language is she loves encouraging others. And okay, all right, so she's saying encouraging Lord, but anyway, but it's important that we build the men up before they walk out the door, because they are so bombarded and with everything. But not only that, affirmation should be across the board. It may be somebody's primary love language, something, in other words, that's what they need. For instance, if the person that you're in a relationship with, again, whatever the relationship is, wasn't affirmed when they were growing up, don't feel good about themselves, or doubting themselves because nobody ever told them that they really mattered. Nobody ever told them that they were important. Nobody ever told them that they were significant, which, let me put in a little shameless plug, we will be doing that series this summer, Search for Significance. So y'all stay open and keep your eyes open for that. But so then I go into a marriage, I go into a relationship, and I haven't been told, that I'm beautiful, I'm important, I'm smart, or I matter. I might have been, the household might not have been a negative or abusive household, but the affirmation just wasn't given.
As a matter of fact, with some of them, they weren't affirmed in that sense, but. And they were also saying that they were called dumb or
well,
stupid.
I'm gonna get to that too.
Okay, you gonna get
But yeah, you're right.
So instead of affirming somebody's in terms of being important, they do just the opposite. The experience that they had as a child is just the opposite. And not only that, but also as children, I see the bully picks up on people who they see as a person who doesn't feel that they've been affirmed. They feel they will pick up on the person who they see who will not say anything to anybody, who will shy away, who will not speak up for themselves, and so they will pick on that person because they recognize that person doesn't have any doesn't feel good about themselves. Okay, and I see that in school setting a lot. So that's, you just made me think of that. Yeah, I'm gonna let you finish. I'm gonna let you finish that thought, because I don't want you to say I made you lose that thought.
Because these thoughts, they run. They be running, boy. I have to catch them. Come on back. Anyway, all right. Let me act like I got some sense. But no, but so take that same person who grew up in a setting, whether they weren't affirmed at all, or whether they were, whether negative things were spoken into them all the time and over them, or even if they were just ignored, like they didn't really matter. And so you go through this whole process, and you have this beautiful wedding, and you think your marriage is going to be the bomb, and you don't understand what the dynamics are that are going on in that marriage. And so, and even if you ask that your spouse, they're not going to be able to articulate it, because they haven't put two and two together. They don't know. Their environment was what it was, and it helped shape who they were and their personality. That's why I don't care how much information we give. I don't care how many noted authors, scholars we cite. I don't care about how much research we might share with you. Bottom line is, God is the one with all of the answers. So our job is to go to the Father and ask Him to help us understand this person that we're in a relationship with. Why is that sister of mine always so grouchy? Why is she always so snippy? Why is she? Why does she always? Like so many times there's that one person in your life that when they walk in the room, it's like they suck all the air out the room. Why is that person like that? And God can help you see that person through different lenses as you pray for that person. So it's not always gonna be 1, 2, 3. And you just follow this formula and then you got it. Yes, I might be able to identify my love language. I may have a clue about what I think that the other person's love language is, what it is that communicates to them that I care about them. But I need to go to God and ask for clarity. I had to, understand, because I talk so much and, I was so quick to say what I wanted to say, because I thought I was just being honest. Didn't realize I was chopping this man down, just chopping him just like I had an axe and he was a piece of wood, just chop, chop, chop. I didn't understand that. So I had to get some balance, and I had to realize there's a way to say what I need to say, but at the same time, I need to make sure that I'm building him up, because when you talk about a marriage situation, this is the visual that I don't know when I got this, but I like to share it with people. Why would I spend time beating this man down, being ugly towards him, being derogatory towards him, if the two of us are one, because we're married? Then that's just like me standing in front of the mirror beating myself up until I'm black and blue and bloody and wounded. That doesn't make sense. So when we're fighting each other, we're fighting ourselves. And that's why, the key is fight together. Fight for your marriage. Don't fight each other. Fight together and fight for your marriage. So these love languages, they really are important. But don't. And most of you who are watching, this. But even when you see the experts sharing things on different venues or whatever, different platforms, don't just lock into it as if that's the end all and all. Ask God to give you clarity. Ask God to show you how to apply it. Because remember, the bottom line, at our heart is that in everything we do, the most important thing is the relationship we have with the Father. Because if we have this relationship right, He'll help us get these other relationships right. So I'm not going to put any information or any new revelation or knowledge above the knowledge of God. I'm going to ask God, how does that fit in? Show me how to work this. Show me if it's for me. Some of you watching tonight, you might say, that ain't even for me. I don't care nothing about no 5 love languages. That's not even an issue. And that's fine, because everything that rolls out from us is not for everybody who tunes in. You might get a nugget here and a nugget there. For some people, they get something every time, but that's a whole different story. So, but find out, see if you can even ask God, what is my love language? What lets me know people care about me?
And like what you said, like what you said about allowing God to show you by way of the Holy Spirit, because He dwells on the inside, and He's that comforter. He's that person that's going, when you ask God, He's going to give you that insight. He's going to give you that rhema word that will break that yoke and bring insight into that situation that you're dealing with. So it's and what you said before, this is kind of just a rough outline about if you want to navigate through the communication, it's just one way of dealing with that. But if you have your way, another way, God will show you another way aside from this to bring you some resolution to how to deal with why aren't you communicating? Why is it always miscommunicating between you and that one person? Like you say, whenever they come
in the room, they suck all the air out. Ain't no more air left.
And
all the oxygen
gone. We know from experience, that a lot of times the enemy will bring about that type of relationship because he doesn't want you two to come together, because he has some understanding that if the two of you get together, that you'll form a mighty force, you know, and there's going to be a productive relationship. So he doesn't want that to take place, and so we tend to see those people as our adversaries, but when it could in fact be a blessing to us. Okay,
but sometimes that blessing is right there in your house, and y'all got the same last name, and the two of you are one.
But you keep bumping heads, because for whatever reasons, you don't want to, you know. Well, we know from experience that part of it is keeping keeping an offense toward each other, meaning that I'm not going to give in to this person, you know. That's pride, you know, or you keeping that anger, you know. So pride and anger, you know, and they continue to bump heads, because I won't admit that that person was right, you know, or because of pride, even though I did them wrong, but because, but I'm going to let them know that they're not going to rule over me, you know. I was wrong. Okay, I was wrong. But when you admit that you were wrong, there's a weight that's taken off you. You know, when you can throw away the anger, there's weight taken off the relationship. You know, but a lot of people want to hang on to that. I'm not ready to forgive them. I'm not ready to turn loose that anger. They deserve to be put down. You know, so all this type of stuff that people come up with to justify their behavior toward people, you know, where God tells us to be angry and sin not, you know. So again, giving it to God, you know, giving that anger to God, giving that pride to God, and He'll will bring a resolution to you by taking that away from Him once you give it to Him, and then you can see things that the scale that's on your eyes is blinding you to what's taking place in the relationship will be taken away, and you can see clearly, you know, instead of through these eyes that filtered through your past experiences with this person or other people, that is blinding you to what's the real enemy, who the real enemy is, and so anyway.
And see what you said really makes sense too. Whether we've been married for a long time, whether you've been married for a long time like we have, or whether you've only been married for a short time, no matter how young you are, no matter how old you are, we have to always be mindful of prior experiences and how they are influencing our current situations. And one of the things that, you know, and quite naturally it would be so, if someone has waited a while to get married, you know, and then you're used to doing things a certain way, you have your own habits, you just kind of set, and then now the two of you have become one, but you're used to. It's not that you don't want to adapt, but this is what you're used to. That's one of the things that you have to give to God and ask Him to show you. I remember when we did premarital counseling with a couple, and the gentleman, he was in his 40s, and he had never been married before, and the young lady had been married before. You know, she was divorced, and she was bringing a daughter into the marriage too. So his whole life was going to change. Life as he knew it had now ended, and he had to come. You know, they had to learn how to compromise. And someone I was talking to today, when you talk about hanging on to the anger and not walking in forgiveness, you know, this person hadn't been married before, and he was in his mid-40s when he got married, and so his interactions with his wife were hindered because of him not even knowing how to relate in a situation, you know, where he could go 2 and 3 weeks in the same house and not say a word, not even want to give the one word answers when something is said, and there were children, you know, involved. Yes, Phil is saying very true. You must clean up old hurts before you move into the new relationship. And a lot of times because we didn't know to do that, or we weren't aware that there were hurts. Because sometimes you don't know that there's a hurt until it starts to get irritated and aggravated. You didn't even know it was there. You know how sometimes you can cut yourself and you don't realize that you got that cut on your finger until you stick it into that water and it starts to sting. So you may be in that relationship and now you starting to sting a little bit, and you may have been in a relationship for some years and you can't figure out, why is this a sore spot? Why does this never work with us? And ask God and he will show you, and you'll be able to identify what that was and to release it and to let it go. And then, when all of this friction is happening, and it can be overt or covert friction. It could just be inaction, no activities together, avoidance, peaceful coexistence, no real love and warmth. And you just existing, and you can't figure out what it is. You need to ask God to show you, because it is not your spouse. It is not your sister. It's not your brother. It's not your mama, auntie, cousins, the best friend who all of a sudden decided to not be the best friend, after, 25, 30 years. It's not them. The enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. So if he can destroy that relationship, or if he can even destroy that drive to want to improve that relationship, then he's winning. And many times where he wins with those of us who are believers, because we don't want to tell anybody what's going on. We don't want people to know, and it's not even a thing of just not wanting people to know, but your mind will play tricks on you, and you feel like, well, I should know how to do this. I shouldn't be concerned with this. I ought to know how to handle this, or I don't even know who to go to. Pray and ask God to show you, because the key is, and if you've watched before, or if you've been in counseling with me before, one of my biggest things is, one of my mentors goes old school, and she says, tell the truth and shame the devil. And you can find the scripture for that, which says, resist the devil and he will flee. See, once you expose what's going on, once you let somebody know and get somebody to try to help you, even if you just exposing the enemy so he'll be exposed and that person can be standing with you in prayer, you've resisted him. The word says he has to run. But see, he can still hang around and just be messing with you and playing with you and getting you all upside your head, messing with your relationship. I like that. Can I do that again? But he'll be just messing with you, and you letting him mess with you because you won't tell somebody, that imp over there messing with me. He messing with my marriage, but you won't tell anybody because you got to maintain that status. You got to maintain that look. You got to make sure everything is on the up and up. The enemy doesn't care who he's attacking.
So we see that language can involve, communication can involve a lot of different aspects, that we can bring into why communication is not working, but they're kind of hidden, based on, like I said, like we've talked about, past experiences, but also we know from previous lessons that we talked about the different aspects of communication. There's nonverbal communication, there's the tone in which you say things, there's verbal communication. So those are the things that we need to pay attention to when we're communicating with a person. And one of the things, most important things that, I think that's been important is that we pay attention to the person who's talking. As we be attentive, that we not thinking about what we're going to have for dinner tonight, or about what happened last night, or how we going to respond to the person, so that's one of the worst things that I've seen with people, is that they don't listen, even though they say they are listening, but they're not listening to what the person is doing or saying. They're not listening to the content, or they are they not listening to the nonverbal that's being displayed.
We had a good demonstration of that the other night, didn't we?
Which one?
When your tickle box turned over.
Oh, okay, right. So those are things that we want to bring to your attention that will involve communication. So we're looking for comments here.
Yeah.
Any more?
Any more comments?
Is that anybody?
First Lady Felicia and Pastor Reeman Price are
Okay.
on.
All right.
Yeah, I got a lot of cousins on. I praise God for my cousins. That Staples family be representing.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we want to encourage you to just submit some questions or bring some comments about your experience in terms of how you communicate, how you think you're communicating with a person. We talked about that too. And sometimes we think we are saying something, but we're saying something different. And then the person who's hearing think they're hearing, but they're not actually hearing
what we're trying to communicate.
So there's a lot of things that can interact with our the communication or message communication. So some people are more visual when they communicate. Audrea is one of them. She'll do the hands, and you can tell that she's real focused on what she's saying. And she get to going like this and hitting on you and carrying on like that. Where she into it then. So we.
You telling the truth.
So it's there are different ways that we know that a person is that we need to focus in on what they're saying and what they're trying to say.
And one of those things that can cause us to be thanks Winton can be a challenge in understanding each other. And I posted something on each of the Facebook feeds. I'm not gonna be able to do it on the Instagram and Twitter and Periscope because there's no way for me to add some things. But I added a tale of two brains, and it's a comical way of looking at the difference in the way men and women communicate. And this guy does a lot of marriage workshops and stuff. And this particular clip is a little dated, but it will help you get a more of a visual of the difference in the way men and women communicate. Like he keeps saying, his favorite go-to description is men straight shooters. They go straight to the point, where you say we do what we want, or we give the details. And when you're in a situation and you're trying to communicate with that other person, if you understand that they think differently, because now we've gotten to the point where sometimes I'll say, okay, I'm putting the art feed box up now. I'm getting ready to take this other box out, and let's talk about that, because we as women have a tendency, and you see it even when he's talking about something and he's straight to the point, and then I take it and then I've gone and I've connected all these different things and wouldn't necessarily be connected because it makes sense to me, but it may not make sense, not necessarily about making sense, but not logical to the way a guy would necessarily think. And again, with that, let me do a disclaimer. These are generalizations. It doesn't mean all men think this way and all women think this way. Okay, you have some men, they're such great communicators and they like to talk, and in their wives' minds they're saying, "I'll be glad when he get tired." And I guess one of the examples I could think about is something that that our pastor is experiencing and is excited about and has been talking about. And he even said the other day, he said, I'm just talking to her about this all this time. And she'll say, "Well, honey, I am so glad that you're experiencing this, but I really would like to get me some sleep tonight," because he'll stay up talking about it till midnight because it's exciting to him. So again, we don't do when we say these things, we're not saying it's cut and dry and even trying to put you in a box, because if you're like me, depending on the situation you're in, you're going to operate and think and communicate differently as you adapt to the situation. But, the bottom line is, we always say, though, ask God. God said, in the book of James, he communicates to us, "If any man lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives liberally and upbraideth not," which means he will pour it on to you. He'll give you so much wisdom, and he's not going to say, "Did you get this lesson yet? Haven't you figured this out yet? Isn't this like the 15th time around the block for this?" He's going to give you that. That's an area that we have pride, not with the other person, but with God. You know, we have too much pride to go to him and say, look, I need some help. I'm trying to figure this out. Especially as believers, when you're trying to do things the right way, and the enemy is doing his best to paint that picture for you that it's not working now. It's not gonna never work. I don't even know why you're trying to make it work. And then you get into the habit of putting that mask on when you walk out the door, acting like everything is wonderful, and you can't really stand each other. Let me see. Felicia said affirmation part was awesome, and after 32 years of marriage, we are still finding new ways to affirm our love for each other. That's really good, Lady Felicia, because that's what's happening with us too. And I honestly believe that's one way to really keep it fresh. You know, because you might say, you know, as I said earlier, okay, people have been married a long time. What else is there? There are new ways to learn how to love each other, to affirm each other, to enjoy each other, to appreciate each other. When you really take time to appreciate each other and you communicate to that person how much you appreciate them, it's awesome. It's awesome. And I think that affirmation should be, you know, so if we rewrote the book, you know I would just say everybody needs affirmation. Even the people who, that's the other thing with us early on, because I'm pretty much independent. Though, you know, when you met me, you know, pretty good self-image and all that kind of stuff, it would appear, this is good for men to know, just because that woman is strong doesn't mean she doesn't need to be affirmed. You know, she is still a woman. She is still a female. That's not a weakness. You know, just because we're strong and we know how to do it and we can handle it, and what is it? We can bring home the bacon and fry it up in the pan, but we still need to be affirmed. And I think that affirmation should be across the board, whether it's your specific or key or most prevalent love language in your way of seeing or not. You should affirm your spouse, and your spouse should affirm you, because that lines up with the word. The word of God says encourage each other today while it is still day. And there are different places where it says encourage each other. So you sow seed of encouragement into someone else, and then the encouragement that you need will come back to you. Not necessarily from that same person, but in our marriages, it does tend to happen like that. You know, he got so tired of me talking about how good looking he is and how fine he is, and you know, how he just get better year after year. He started coming back at me with some of that stuff, because he just couldn't stand it, could you?
Couldn't stand it. Tell Pastor Price to keep up the good work, and you know, we
see, I'm embarrassed, y'all, because I started talking about how good looking you were.
Get better and better. Yes, indeed. All right, folks, we appreciate your time. We appreciate your energy. We appreciate your feedback, and we'll look forward to bringing this communication issue to another level. Looking at some things.
What are some of the things you're looking at for the next 2
differences and similarities between men and women? Some more details about that. You know, again, on a general level, we don't want to put anybody in a box. But I also want to hopefully bring some information that will bring about some compromises and some solutions to problems where, you know, people find themselves at odds with each other in terms of how they communicate. So one of the ways that we talked about last time was, you know, we talked about creating our own language, you know, in terms of, you know, little lovey-dovey type words that, you know, nobody can understand but us, you know. And so when you do that, that brings about closeness too, because even when you're in public, you're talking about some of the words, some of the nicknames, some of the made-up language, you know, that could be cues for some other behavior y'all want to display later on. You know, so those are.
And then that makes it even that much more exciting, because you're talking about getting busy later, and the people around you have no clue what you're talking about.
Right, exactly. Somebody made a comment. What's that? Another one? No. Okay.
So now, those of you who are in situations where you might feel like you're having a hard time in your marriage, I just want to take time to encourage you And the best advice, the best thing we can tell you is press in and seek God for wisdom. Ask Him for direction, for clarity. He'll send you the help that you need. You'll be somewhere. You'll hear something, and that'll be it, the it that you need, or He'll direct you to the person. Just be open. You have to go ahead and just be open and ask God. God knows your spouse. He knows what makes your spouse tick. He knows what ticks your spouse off. And so, who better to go to than to God the Father? So you be encouraged and you pray. And those of you who are not in those types of situations right now, let's make sure that we're praying for the marriages that are struggling, the marriages that are in trouble. The enemy doesn't like marriages, and he's doing whatever he can to tear up the marriage as God created it to be. And we already know that we have the victory, but we have to walk like it. We have to act like it. We have to Phyllis, you say your word is hanky panky. All right then. Hey, never mind. I was gonna say something. I'm not gonna say that right now. But anyway, but you all, let's make sure we're praying for other marriages, because I know in the early stages of our marriage, and even in the middle, it's just like, especially like if you're raising children, and you're doing the best you can, and then the enemy's coming at you with everything and anything, it can put a stress on your marriage. If your parenting styles are different, you're not able to communicate and compromise, you can be ready to, pack your bags and walk on out the door. So be aware that it's the enemy who comes to steal, kill, and destroy. But Jesus said that I have come life, that you may have life, and that you may have it more abundantly. Amen. All right. Felicia says she will, and she loves us both, and she's enjoying the powerful truths tonight. And Phyllis says great ministry. See, Phyllis, I overlooked all of that and went straight to hanky panky, didn't I? Well, I'm so glad that you all joined in, and like I said, I put 2 links on each of those streams. And I hope that you'll find them interesting and a little humorous. The one about the tale of 2 brains. And the other one was about the 5 love languages. Check it out and see what you're leaning towards, and then you can get a better idea of who you are, and also begin to see your spouse or your relative, your friend in a different light as well, and know what you need to do to keep that relationship the way it should be. All right. Well, we love you all. We thank you so much for joining in. We will see you again here next Monday night. Some of you, we will see you here on Wednesday night when we go to Sunday school. Some people say, take them to church. We're going to Sunday school. Where we do Sunday school on a Wednesday night. And next, the lesson that we have, I'm way ahead, huh? I don't have it marked. Is... You mean you don't know it off the top of your head there?
Not off the top of my head.
Not off the top of your head. Well, it'll be the May 13th lesson. So it's bringing first fruits. I don't know why I couldn't remember that, because we talked about it last time. And the lesson will come from Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. And so we're to read the 2nd chapter of Leviticus and the 23rd chapter of Leviticus. So bringing the first fruits. When you come into the land which I give unto you, and shall reap the harvest thereof, then you shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest. Leviticus 23:10. So again, I hope we'll see some of you on Wednesday night. We love you. God bless you. Y'all have a fantastic week. And make sure you show some love, and make sure you affirm somebody. Let's see, who did I miss? Oh, Dr. Sharon Simmons, how you doing? Good to see you tonight as well. All right. I probably missed some of you people on this other feed. I see my cousin Beatrice Rouse. Thank you for joining. I don't think I can catch everybody else, so I love you though. All right, good night.
Good night.
Sleep tight.
Thanks for joining us.
All right, and may God's blessing, grace, and favor rest on you heavily, so that you will be a testament of His power, His grace, and His anointing that you walk in and that rests on you. In the name of Jesus.